Hey, what's up, y'all? Welcome back to On Your Mental. This is the podcast where we share candid, open, and sometimes vulnerable conversations between men, talking about whatever's on our minds. I'm your host, Ruben Hardern, and if you're not already, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. That way you know when new episodes come out. Or if you're listening, make sure that you're following on either Spotify or iTunes. That way when a new episode's out, it'll just download automatically for you. In today's episode, I have with me my friend Brandon Beavis. Brandon started a YouTube channel 3 years ago, which has now grown to over 130,000 subscribers, which is just incredible. He's also turned this into a business, which is generating for him 6 to 7 figures annually. So he has found a lot of success in this journey. What we talk about in today's episode is identifying that passion that you then focus your energy around, what that journey to success looks like to you, and sometimes what the things you have to sacrifice are. It was a really great conversation. Really happy that Brandon came on here. Thank you, Brandon, for taking the time to do this. I hope you all enjoy the episode. I really enjoyed the conversation. I took a lot from it. And for now, I will just leave you to it. Enjoy. Bye-bye. So how the kids? How the wife?
Everything's good, man. Trucking along.
Cool.
How
long you been in your new place for?
The dogs. The dogs are like the
dogs,
kids.
yeah.
Well, there's a dog, but
You have like a whole arc.
whole
in your
army of
home.
them. Actually,
Yeah.
yeah, they're good. They're
Yeah.
they're good. The new home's good. It's just reminds me of something like this. It's like it gets the job done.
Sure.
But
The humble man over
yeah,
here. When did you move in?
it would have been actually a year and a half ago now.
Year and a half? Oh, really? In the same
two.
place? Yeah.
Maybe 2 already. Like time flies, but it was basically after moving out from Evan. So whenever that was.
Fuck,
Maybe
dude,
it was
that's like
maybe it was
almost
a year
2
ago.
years
Actually,
ago,
no, it was
man.
2 years ago because I had a whole year with Viv at
Jeez.
Catchin, and then here, it's been over 2 years now.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. At Catchin? Was Catchin?
That was the place that I moved like before this home.
Oh, and that was renting at the time then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and now you own your home.
Yeah.
What's that feel like being a homeowner, man?
Feels great now. It doesn't feel, there's literally no difference.
Really?
Yeah. No difference. Like it's, for so many people think it's such a big step, right? Like,
Well, it seems like it's a big step to me. I mean,
yeah.
comparatively speaking, but
No, on a day-to-day basis, it's like you don't feel any different. The money goes out just like rent.
Sure.
It's just that deep down, you kind of know at least you're
at least it's yours at the
paying
end of the day.
yourself
Yeah,
rather
yeah.
than someone else.
That
But
makes sense.
that's really the only difference. I actually ended up paying less on my mortgage than I was paying the rent like at the other place, which is
That's
just,
crazy how that works out too. I guess like is that because of just the fact that you're making a down payment of whatever amount, and then that means you can reduce your mortgage payments by having a higher down payment? I don't know what homeownership works like.
yeah.
I don't know how this works.
No, I just think the other place we were living in was more costly. It was a more expensive place. Like, dude, we were paying $1,850 for a 1-bedroom.
Fuck me.
So that's
man.
like, I mean, everywhere here freaking sucks.
Yeah.
But that was like, it's pretty standard, man, in Richmond.
Wow. That's a lot, man.
Yeah.
That's a lot. This is for 2, this is 24. So
That's not that. Yeah. So that's manageable.
okay.
That's manageable between
yeah,
2 people.
Yeah, exactly. Like if it wasn't 2 people, then yeah, you're kind of fucked. But
Totally.
yeah. I kind of wanted to ask you things about your work and how everything's going with that.
Yeah.
Because obviously it's like when I think about Brandon Beavis Investing, I just think back to your first video years ago, and like you were like always asking us like, oh, how did this one work? Like, what do you guys think was good about this? All this stuff, and it's like very, very humble beginnings to where you are now, and you are clearly finding a lot of success with it. So, how do you feel with where that's at?
It's coming along. Like,
Yeah.
Honestly, the time flew by.
Yeah.
Like that was 3 years ago that I posted the first video, and obviously you guys were well aware of that. But now that I'm in the routine and kind of working away at it, this is just what I do. It's what I know.
Yeah.
It feels like this is just it, right? But obviously it started very similarly to like what you're doing. It's like, get episode 1 out.
Yeah, you're getting, like,
number
curious
2,
with it,
plan it
yeah.
out, and you're just exploring and experimenting. But yeah, like it's grown well, and we got a little operation going, got a team in place. Like it's evolved over the years. But like I was watching you listen to yours yesterday, the podcast, and is like you're saying you had these feelings when it first came out. Like I had the exact same thing, man. Like just starting off, it's like you get this a good anxiety, a good type of anxious.
It's
like
a weird anxiety.
It's a weird one. Like I never told anybody about this, but when I posted the first video, I didn't cry. But
Some of us are more emotional than others.
Hey,
Yeah.
not judging, but like I remember I was with Evan at the time, and I was in bed, and I was like ready to hit post, and I was like trembling in a good way. Like I wasn't scared. I was excited, but it's just like that. You know, it's a new type of feeling, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, that
You're putting yourself out there in a new way that is like you wouldn't have experienced that at any other point in your life up until then, right? Yeah. When you first put out your first episode, did you think, or did you have like a gut feeling like this is a good idea?
I did, yeah. Like obviously, you kind of have your there's a reason why I did it.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah,
you know, it's you kind of see an end goal, like a vague end goal. But obviously, the reasons why I started that was I thought it was for a good reason, thought it was for a good cause, and it was something that I enjoyed doing at the time. I still enjoy doing now. Like it's fun to produce, it's fun to create, and to find kind of a topic. Obviously, I didn't know exactly how dialed in it would be at that point, but yeah, of course, you had a good feeling about it, and it's just like, you know, what could happen from here?
What did it start out for you as? Like when you first came up with the idea of doing YouTube, what was the initial thought? Like what was the message you wanted to be getting across with your videos? And has that maybe even stayed true to today?
The overriding message has definitely stayed true. And it was, you know, my background is obviously I worked for my dad for a little while, and he's an advisor. He actually was an advisor. He just retired. And
now he's joining you.
Now he's
crazy.
It's
so
full
cool.
circle. So now he's on the YouTube channel for anybody that does kind of tune into the videos. But yeah, like I had got some knowledge through getting my license and whatnot. I'm like, this is good information that people need to know,
right?
And people don't know. And now there's so many finance YouTubers out there. It's insane. Like the flood of this little rats just crowding the platform.
Get out of my scene.
Legit, these little rats crowding the platform. And I mean, good for them for talking about that stuff. But I was trying to come from an actual knowledgeable background. It's like, hey, I've got this information and I've worked here for a few years in the field. So it's like, can I package this up and put it in a video form to educate people? Like that's literally what it was. And I saw at the time, like 3 years ago, there were still other finance YouTubers doing it, but it definitely was not like anywhere close to what it is today. So I did see a couple people, like there was maybe 3 or 4 key people that were doing it. That's it. Maybe some other tiny ones, but now there's hundreds of channels.
Right.
But when I saw them, I'm like, damn, that's inspiring. Like, you know, they've already got started. It's like, I feel like I can talk about this topic, and that's kind of how it all started. But the goal was to just educate, to teach, and that hasn't changed, right? Like now, even
and that's still really clear in any of your videos.
That's one of the pieces of feedback we get, right? It's like we are, you know, people learn from our channel. It's not as exciting as a lot of other ones because, you know, there's a lot of we try to make it as exciting as possible. Yeah. But, you know, there's like, you got the clickbaity types of things. It's just like terrible advice. But
from what I've heard from people who watch your stuff, it's all that it's so like easy to understand. It's digestible in a way that is just relatable because you talk from a perspective of someone who is a young adult, right? Who isn't talking as though they know every fucking thing in the world. Like you're just getting a message across that is authentic. I think that's maybe what comes out in your videos too.
Well, that's one of the pieces of feedback I often get, and it's because I think I can relate to the people who are young or who are just getting started, and like it wasn't that long ago that I had no clue about this stuff. Yeah. And I can kind of put myself in their shoes and get the information out in a simple way. And that, like you said, that is one of the more common feedbacks we do get. But yeah, thanks.
Yeah, man.
try to make it simple. Like that's the goal.
Yeah, because I think that's the only way to connect with your audience a bit more, right? You make it more broadly applicable than everybody's interested in, right? I guess.
You try.
Yeah, well, thank you for first of all coming on your mental. I appreciate you being here today, Brandon.
Thank you.
The reason why I'm asking you stuff about your work is I'm kind of curious how you view just passion and how that's presented itself in your life, because from me knowing you through high school, I saw you as the kid who was really good looking and really good at basketball. Like that was what I saw with you.
Thanks, Bruce.
And then of course, like you were a friend after high school too. And we like, everybody's done stupid shit together and it's fun. And then now you're this guy who's like all business, and it's like, it's cool. Yeah. It's cool. It's a shift, I guess, of change in maturity, but I wonder how much of that is fueled by that passion of maybe teaching people.
I think, like you said, teaching people is one thing, and that is it's a big element of what we do. But like, I think my true passion in and of itself lies in more or less the entrepreneurial side. Like I like creating, I like making. I always knew I didn't know what I wanted to do when I was younger, but it was something business related. I want to do something, and it's like I want to sell something, do this or that, and that's more of what has driven me. And this is the vehicle, right? It's like, oh, this makes sense. This is what I know. This is what I'm, let's say good at based on the feedback. And it made sense to do that. But of course, educating is one of the like overriding things we will always do. But I think more or less it's the passion was in the evolving and just growing as a I don't even like using the term entrepreneur, but that is what it is. It's an entrepreneur, right?
Well, you're doing something for yourself.
Yeah.
Right. And that is entrepreneurialism. Is that the word?
Entrepreneurialism, probably.
Yeah. Something like that. Yeah, man. Do you remember like when we had lived together?
Yeah.
And there was that one snow day and we went out to take like LinkedIn photos.
Yeah.
And like, that's
still on my Instagram.
Camera. Yeah. It was when the phones finally got portrait mode.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I was like, let's go test out portrait mode.
Yeah. Good times.
But I remember even back then, like, I started to see you in a different way because it was like, oh, you're serious about stuff.
Yeah. Right? And you know, you said it actually in the first question is like, there's been a change since back in the day. And I think, I'm serious. Shut the okay. Classic, man. Jesus.
Yeah. Anyway, sorry.
She's serious.
She's serious. I hate her, dude. I hate Siri so much.
You were talking about that transition, and I don't think it was like an overnight thing. It's you can't just flip a switch one day and just be like, oh, I'm time to mature up and kind of get serious about something. It's like that came with time, right? That came with committing to something and, you know, investing myself more and more into and start off as a project, as like a little side hustle. Yeah. And it's like similar to what you're doing, right? It's like, it's just it's an aspect of your life, but as it grows, there comes a point where it's like, how deep do I want to dive into this? Like, how much do I want to commit and involve myself? I don't know when that switch was, but it's, I think it was gradual, really.
So it wouldn't then, for you, it wasn't like something happened.
An event or some trigger or something?
It was over time.
For me, it was over time. You do hear stories about like, oh, this something happened in my life, and
like an opportunity came up.
I couldn't go back. So for some people, maybe that's the case, but for my circumstance, no. That was it was gradual for sure.
Well, I find it interesting that you say how it's like when you decide that you need to invest more of yourself into it, because you, correct me if I'm wrong, you had to give up your license for what you were doing under your dad's work to do this. So that must have been a big decision. It was a huge decision. Like I had kind of a path laid out and a very something that's safer. Something that was for sure safer, way more reliable, and for a lot of people it would have been just the obvious choice. But I think, you know, from pretty early on I was able to weigh the opportunity that YouTube presented and what, you know, not just YouTube, but really the internet and the scale you can get by like reaching people there. I think even with a lower amount of subscribers and a lower following at the time, I was able to see what other people were doing, and even though I wasn't quite there yet, it was like the opportunity of I wouldn't want to let that pass without giving it a try, right? Sure. So with my license, which you actually touched on, I did have to suspend it for like I had a 3-year period where I could basically put it on hold if I wanted to at any time, kick back up. So it wasn't like I'm all out. Right. They let you suspend it for 3 years, and then you don't have to do your courses again. You don't have to do your training. So it's like you have that choice to make. So I figured I can give this a 3-year go, all in, right, and see where that takes us. And if, you know, worst comes to worst, I got the fallback plan, which is like lucky of me. Yeah. Not everybody has that fallback plan. That safety net. Safety net, exactly. Yeah. That's a good point too. Did you at any point think that you were going to have to fall back on that, like once you started into it? And then I have a question too about the job that was safe. But anyways, I'll let you answer that. I'm trying to think back to that. I think the answer is no. Yeah. You know, one thing, like when it comes to doing entrepreneurialism, and, you know, I'll learn a new word today. Business and whatnot for yourself. It's, you know, there's no path. There's no set path for you. Like you're just exploring, you're just seeing, you know, you're figuring things out along the way. But at the same time, so you have to factor that in, right? You can't just be like blindly going and just winging it and stuff. You still have to have an overall goal. And like, I think I always had I was always optimistic that this was going to work. I had to be, right? It's, you have to have the confidence in yourself. Blind faith in yourself. The blind faith in yourself. Just listen, I don't know how things are going to play out, but I believe things will play out. And that way you're constantly working towards a broader goal, I guess. It's like you believe in the vision of what you're doing. Yeah. I like that, because when I guess I talked about it in my last episode, when I had an episode that I filmed with Jesse, and I think Kabir was here at the time. We did his episode, but Jesse was helping, hanging around. Yeah. Just lurking around over there. After the episode, we talked about like, what do I want with On Your Mental, for example, and then that's when I started to just flesh out that idea of inspiring a generation of men to be more open with one another. And I think that's what I'm after I eventually take this little break that I'm going to take in a few episodes just to recenter and then focus again. I think that's what I'm going to lean into, and as the driving force, like this is a good idea and this is what I believe in it doing. And so that's why I want to stick with this.
100%. Like you have the direction or vision, but the means of getting there may change. And I
don't know what they are yet. Yeah.
Exactly. And like, I like the idea of doing seasons or taking breaks or whatever it is, because that gives you a whole new reset at like different angles. Maybe you want to try bringing different people on. Maybe you want to try doing different types of like meeting. Like I don't know. There's more to do. There's more to it, right?
Content to make. Yeah,
100%. Cool. But you're right. That overall vision remains true. And I mean, in your case, man, like I've told you this already, but like you're a very, very good podcast host. You are, man. Like you are. You really are. And it's not an easy thing. I've done videos for 3 years. And I still suck at filming videos sometimes. Like being on camera and especially like hosting a conversation, that's not easy to do. Like you do a good job at it. You're super calm and laid back. It's true, man. It's true. So you've got something that's working, and it's just a matter of tinkering. Like, and if you believe in the topic and the subject, you got to keep grinding and figuring out ways to get it out there.
Yeah.
But the content itself it's for a good cause, for a good reason, right? No doubt.
I'll go back for a second just because we touched on the fact that you had to suspend your license for a little bit. For people who are watching who don't 100% know you, what was that license for? Like, what was that?
An investment advisor.
An investment advisor. What does that even mean? Like, I don't.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of gray area. Financial advisors, investment advisors, portfolio managers.
Similar thing.
Very similar thing. Like as the world has evolved, there are different services you can provide in the investing finance world. But pretty simply, like at my dad's firm, I got my license. I could choose to work wherever. I could apply to a bank. I could go to independent brokerage. My dad also had his own firm, which was a lucky path for me to learn experience in. But basically the idea is we would manage clients' money. Like they'd come in with $1 million, couple $1 million and say, well, we want to make money on this.
Right.
And we'd build portfolios, obviously according to each client. Is some are riskier, some are more conservative. We were always very conservative in general. Like, you don't want to risk, you don't want to go crazy.
Because it's other people's money. It's not your money.
Exactly. Yeah. You have to invest responsibly. But that was the idea. So the license gave me, not everyone can just manage someone else's money. Like you have to legally pass certain certifications and exams to even be able to look at the accounts and kind of do things on
which
the
makes
inside.
sense, because then like Joe Schmo could be like, give me your money over here. I feel you.
That's the funny thing about YouTube though. Like you can go on YouTube and not have any background or license, and you can say whatever you want. I can say go buy Bitcoin, go buy this, which is it doesn't make sense, because someone with education, qualifications like myself or my dad, we couldn't talk about that stuff online without suspending our license, because there's compliance issues. Like I think I get where they're coming from, because they don't want us, like Manulife, which is who we worked with, didn't want us saying anything stupid and like looking bad upon themselves.
Sure.
So they have to screen everything we say.
Right.
Which is it's unrealistic to say, well, every YouTube video we're going to send you the script and get it
before
approved.
It's out. Yeah.
It's so dumb. It's so dumb. But I get where they're coming from.
The other side that I wondered about was like, if you were working, I guess, under Manulife then, and you had your YouTube videos coming out and you were saying like, hey, these are the stocks that I'm buying. And then let's say you have a large following, because now you're over 100,000 subscribers. And let's say magically these 100,000 subscribers all bought that into that same stock. Yeah. Isn't that going to help your portfolio if that's the one that you're in? You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the idea.
That's possibly something that could be
market manipulation.
Market manipulation. Yeah.
Totally.
Which is, I guess, what we saw with like
GameStop and whatnot. Yeah. It's, on a YouTube scale, we do influence what people do, but in the world of stock market, especially with the big companies, it's a drop in the bucket. Yeah. It's not noticeable. Maybe there are some channels out there that can influence the market because they're so big, but I think it's just a drop in the bucket at the end of the day.
Yeah. It's not going to affect anybody in a negative
otherwise
way.
Just pump up all our stocks.
Bye. Wall Street bets.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm thinking about is this kind of idea of sacrifice to reach a point of success, because you had to go off into the deep end. You know what I mean? You had to fully commit. How much do you think sacrifice plays a part in finding success? I
can only speak for my case, but it's huge, man. Like you guys know, I've had to pull back from a lot of stuff, social groups, and maybe not the case for everybody, but at least for me, what was working for me was when I had to invest and commit my time into this, you had to give some stuff up on the other end. And it's tough if you're on the outside looking in, like, and you're not doing something. You could probably say, well, like, why do you have to do that? Like, you could do both, and you can do both. I think it's healthy to do both in terms of like living your normal life with relationships and friends and everything. But as it gets more serious and serious, like you do have to give stuff up. Yeah.
And it takes up so much more of your time
It takes up time. And one of the things I think people don't realize is like mental energy.
Yeah.
It's like time is one thing, right?
Yeah.
We all have time, and people like, I don't work 12 hours a day and I literally can't go hang out with friends.
Yeah.
But it takes time, when you're planning a podcast and getting people on, like that takes energy.
It's draining.
Yeah. And imagine, and think about that. It's a podcast now, but what if you have, staff that you're working with? What if you have students or clients that are asking you questions? It's like, you have to always be ready and available. Not that they're like overwhelming, but that doesn't really shut off when you're doing your own thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like, oh, we could go to the bar one night, go have fun. But that does weigh on you, not only for the time that you take off from work, but like the next day you're kind of out of rhythm, and it's like, I'd rather just stay very clear minded, focused. I really just kind of like to be routine with my stuff. And it's a sacrifice that like I regret some things, like I miss hanging out with the guys. I fucking do. But it's like, in order to get to where I am, I think it's something I think is necessary.
Yeah. I want to ask about that, I guess. So from your own experience then, did it feel like in the moment that it wasn't worth it sometimes to be sacrificed?
100%. Yeah.
Hey?
100%.
Yeah.
100%, man. Like there's been times where you guys would go on trips and shit. Yeah. And it's like, if you remember the exact one,
we would be like begging you to come.
Yeah. It's literally like, come, like, yeah, people texting, begging you to come. It's just like, hey man, I'm going to focus on this, or I got this to do. And it's tough because it's not like there's a boss telling you have to work this day. It's like you're making that choice to.
It's you telling yourself
like, give it better. Up. Yeah, and it's kind of bringing it back to what we first talked about. It's like, if you have that long-term vision, you believe in it, you got to kind of give it the chance by investing in yourself. And it sucked, man. Like it did suck, but yeah,
because. I'm definitely not at that point yet, but that's something that I've thought about. If magically this like works out and this ends up taking up more, I'm happy with it. Yeah, so like if that ends up becoming like more and more part of my life, like it's cool that I can have my friends on as guests. You know what I mean? Like that's something where I can continue like that part of the relationship. But
I'll cut you off there, and like I was just speaking from my experience where I decided to withdraw with certain things, right? Some people may be able to keep up very healthy relationships with friends and still work on their stuff. Like maybe that works well with them. Maybe some people are like, a priority of mine is I'm still going to stay very fit and do this at the same time. It depends on what you prioritize. And like, I still have regrets sometimes too. Like I think I could have done a much better job of staying involved and not sacrificing, being a little more selective with what I sacrificed. But overall, you do have to kind of pick and choose. Like it does take time to do something.
Do you think you could have gotten to where you are now? I mean, it's such a hard thing to like exactly to like think about. Yeah,
I don't though.
Yeah. So you don't think that you would have had the same trajectory had you?
No.
Our friends take up a lot of mental energy too. You know what I mean? Like, our friends, we're a nightmare. It's so easy for myself, for anybody, any of our friends to look at what's happened, let's say over the last 3 years, right? You can look at it and be like, okay, at the start, that was when you started putting out some content. And I remember us like bugging you about the whole like work while they play, like while they sleep, all that shit.
Yeah.
And then
warranted.
Now you come 3 years later and it's like, dude, like you're doing amazingly well with this stuff. So it paid off. So it's easy to say, from this outside standpoint now, like hindsight's 2020, you know what I mean? Like, of course it worked.
Yeah.
But absolutely, I can imagine at the time, like you're going through those motions. Everybody's human, you know what I mean? You're going through those motions and you're missing your friends maybe. Do you think there's any truth to that at all, that you were missing your time with friends?
100%. I still do today, man. Like this is kind of, my life has changed and it's just no longer a part of kind of what is part of my day to day. You definitely miss them, man. But like you said, because things have quote unquote worked out so far, it makes it better, right? And I kind of wonder, like, what if things busted or what if things bombed? Well, then I'm sacrificing all that for nothing,
right?
It's
like, was the sacrifice
worth it? And it's like, maybe that's a risk you have to take. You have to weigh the options. And if, like, I don't want to say it's holding you back, because the friends aren't holding you back. They are like, they're a crucial part of your life. But if you want to get somewhere, sometimes you have to maybe take a little risk, right? And that it's, like you said, you don't know till it's over or till you look back how it's going to pan out. But I think it's a calculated risk you have to take.
Yeah, you're choosing which things you want to fit in your life.
That's exactly it. You make that you choose what you want to fit.
You can't have it all. I don't believe that you can have it all.
True.
I think that someone would be naive to think that everything works out perfectly in your life. And that was, I guess I touched on that a little bit in my solo episode too, where it's like I'm realizing you can't plan everything.
No.
You can't plan everything at all. Like in my head, like thinking back even over the last couple of years, like, oh, I'm going to be best friends with all these guys. We're going to be friends forever. Like this is just going to be it for life. You know what I mean? And like now especially over the last year, you don't see everybody as often. And in part that's due to a pandemic.
Yeah.
But it's also in part to you're getting older and you're doing things. You're focusing on a career maybe, or you're focusing on something else. I'm focusing on this. Like I've had to say no to hanging out with friends some nights because like I was trying to plan something, or I had an episode to shoot the next day and I wanted to be rested. Like all this kind of stuff comes up and it's real and it starts feeding into your life a little bit more and more, right? So it takes up more of that time.
For sure.
So Brandon, then thinking about that whole experience and sacrifice and how that fits into maybe finding success, what is success to you, man? Because right now one could say from an outside perspective, you're successful. But what's success look like to you?
I think that would be, you could say successful from a dollar perspective, right? A money perspective, but there's so much more in what is it to me? It's way more than just the money or the income. Like that's just, that's actually one of the smallest parts I think of success personally, because it doesn't matter what field you're in or what you are trying to do. I think it's a matter of if you are growing and if you are striving towards something, like whether that be a monetary goal, whether that be with your health or with relationships, like anything it is. I think success is as long as you are working on it every day to grow. To me, that's success. I know that's a lame answer, but
no, but that's kind of like what even Ben said.
Yeah, that I was thinking of literally Ben. It's like you, as long as you are growing as a person, let's say, if you are striving to do that every day, I think that's success. Because you've talked about in other podcasts too. It's like people set these, artificial goals and like, oh, I need to be this by this, or by 28, I want to get this. Like you could say all these different things. It's like, it's not about hitting a target or a dollar figure or, what you clothes you wear. It's like, because you could have people that have all that and they're just so unhappy. They're not good people. Like that's a legitimate thing.
It's the money doesn't. So often you hear, sorry to cut you off. So often you hear that, people who do find like monetary success aren't happy.
Dude, I mean, the money's nothing. Like
money's not.
It helps you with getting more things and being definitely more free. Like you can live more freely for sure, but it's not going to fix any of your issues. If you have an issue with like something related to you
inside, demons.
Sometimes the money actually just makes those demons worse. I think like 100%.
I think especially if you were like, this is just an example, I guess, but maybe someone who was exposed to like substance abuse or something like that, for example, and then now they find all this wealth. Now they're buying more drugs.
Crazy.
You know what I mean?
They get the finest stuff.
And you see that on, for a lack of better examples, but like Wall Street, like if you look at Wolf of Wall Street, 100%.
You know that's like a very
that's
example.
Dangerous.
And that's well, you bring up Wall Street. I think that's a good example. It's easy to tell when someone's doing it for the wrong reasons. And let's assume their idea of success. Oh, I drive the nice car. I had the nice suit, this or that. Like the money will only amplify that poor mindset. Whereas if your success is more about anything else, like happy, like what it means to you to be successful, which is so vague, but then the money's just a byproduct, right? But if you're doing it for the money, like I would never say the monetary is a determining factor of success at all. Yeah. Even just like your social status, all that stuff. That's a bunch of junk. It's a bunch of bogusness. It's a bunch of bogusness. Like
yourself.
Oh, 100%. You could have these super wealthy people and they think it looks like they have it all together, but they're just not. Like if you're not happy, if you don't have good people around you, like what's the point?
I like that you say that because I think I agree with you on that. It's that it comes down to like your intention with whatever you're doing. when you talked about what you do, right, it sounds like it comes from a place of wanting to make other people's lives better, because you said at the very beginning, it was like, I'm learning all these things to become an investment advisor. Everyone should know this because it's going to make their lives better. And that sounds like that's kind of been what drives you and what you're doing.
The money's just a byproduct. Yeah. And hey, maybe that does say you're successful because you've been able to reach these people. But yeah, a better determination of success is if I wanted to teach a bunch of people, well, each and every day, am I doing that with my videos? Or if I want to be, a healthier person, like if I'm striving and eating good food and working out every day or getting my runs in, like, you're working on bettering yourself. It's not so much the outcome, let's say, that is success. Because that's journey, one thing too, Rubes. Like the bar, let's assume you have this thing you want to hit. Like, oh, I want to make this much, or I want to be this weight, whatever. Like once you're there, maybe weight's a bit different, but like you will always raise the bar higher once you get to that
what's
point.
Next? Yeah,
what's next, right? Oh, I want to do this by age 28. It's like, well, when you get there, it's like, well, realistically, I want to do this, and you're always going to set the bar higher. So I think success is, again, working on yourself as long as you're trying to better yourself. That's I'm repeating myself over and over again, but I'm just trying to rephrase what I'm thinking. But it's not material things. It's nothing like that.
And that's, I think, where you can get caught in a trap sometimes, especially with youth. I think when you're younger, your idea of what success looks like often revolves around monetary things.
True.
Right? And it's not until you start growing and you start maturing and you realize that isn't the be-all, end-all of life. True. You know what I mean? Like, there are people who are incredibly happy, and maybe this is to say that success and happiness do kind of fall hand in hand.
I think
right?
so.
I think of them in the same way.
Me too.
Because it's like the whole pursuit of happiness, you know what I mean? Like, that is success, right? Yeah. And you can see people who are in way worse situations or scenarios financially that might be really happy, right? And I think that speaks to what success is.
Dude, like you just said there, that's a great example. Let's assume you're someone in like a third world country or something, let's assume you're a dancer, or you're playing those drums. Like, there's all these kind of crazy things, and you could be super successful in what you do, and the money has nothing to do with it, man.
Yeah. So you're doing something that you love. You're doing something that you love and that you're passionate about. I think that's where success falls in, right? Because you're a J. Cole fan, right? Like I feel like I remember you being a J. Cole fan. His song "Love Yours," like I said in my episode, it's a song that I go back to again and again and again, more and more now, because it's that whole idea that there's no such thing as a life that's better than yours.
No such thing. No such
life
thing.
that's better than yours. Yeah, as you get older, as I've gotten older, and I guess you've seen that too, then success isn't just that. So when I ask you, what does success look like to you, it's nice hearing that it's not some monetary thing, because clearly that's true then, like that is something that people start to realize, that it's not just about that.
Yeah, or like social status too. Oh, I need to get this raise, or I need to get this position at work. Like, so people like think of me, my family thinks of me. It's tough when you have family pressures, like, I'm lucky I never had, but you know how you have parents that want you to go to school so bad, and then get this job or position, work your way up the ladder. It's like, then there's a lot of pressure there. But like, are you doing it for the wrong reason? You can get that position, you can have a great job, quote unquote, but if you're not happy, then what's the point?
And I guess in those situations too, it's kind of easier said than done.
Oh, 100%.
Right? Like when you have that family pressure, that's all that you know growing up. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I can't imagine that, because I've been lucky enough to not have that family pressure. My mom wanted me to go to school. Yeah. Right? Like she wanted me to do post-secondary, but it was never that I had to. There was a period of time where I thought I wanted to drop out.
Yeah.
It was around when we were living together, actually.
Yeah.
It was around that time. I guess that was like, 2017?
Yeah.
Yeah. I had taken a semester off, and then the following semester I had taken just like 2 online courses, and that was it. And it was like I was hating school at this point. Yeah. And I was talking to my mom about the idea of not finishing it. Like, what if I don't want to do this? What if I would rather just focus on work? Because I think at the time, if I remember what I was going through, I was working part-time, and then I was paying for rent, barely able to do it.
You were. It was part-time.
Barely able to do it. Definitely part-time. Fuck these guys over. Barely able to pay the rent, and then I needed to also focus on school at the same time.
Yeah.
That was kind of a struggle. And so I think at the time I was thinking, you know what if I cut out going to school? Then maybe I could work full-time and I'd be able to afford this. We'll pause again for a minute. Yeah, come on in, man.
Get in here.
What's up, buddy?
Yeah, actually. right on time. What's up, man?
It is what it is. What's going on, guys? Hey, dude. To finish my thought there, yeah, I think I was starting to prioritize at that point. It was like, do I give up on doing this thing that I'm sure will make my life better because it's easy to give up right now to make another aspect of my life easier, which was just income. Right. And
it's like sacrifice, like we talked about earlier. You gotta weigh it.
You're choosing what you want to give up. And at that point, for what worked for me was to
sacrifice something else. Yeah.
Sacrificing the living outside of my home.
And we got a random roommate.
And I threw a random roommate in there for you. Shout out Kelly. Man.
Good times.
Yeah, dude. And so that worked for me because that got me to a point where I was then able to go back to school. I finished my degree, and then now I have that chapter of my life done. You know what I mean? Because for me, looking forward, I thought, okay, I might want to make a career where I'm working. And for me to do that, for me to get to certain roles and pursue a career, I might need a degree.
True.
And that was just kind of something I had to check off and I had to get done. But it sacrificed what I liked about living out of my home, which was just the freedom and the ability to do what I want, which now I have again now, you know what I mean? So it's kind of like delayed gratification. Like if you can sacrifice something that maybe is working really well for you, for me, it was living out with you guys. Like it was nicer doing that. I had more freedoms. I was able to sacrifice that in order to create a better circumstance to do that again now, where now I'm not struggling, you know what I mean? Like I'm not going paycheck to paycheck to be able to live on my own, and I'm not trying to balance a ton more stuff, and now I can do something like this
where I can pursue
a creative thing.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's I find it kind of interesting just how your perspective of success can shift over time. When did you talked about your entrepreneurial
bug
stuff, your bug? When did you first start noticing that? I think you've made a video about it, so like
maybe not as in depth as I've ever could go, but I've always had the bug. Like I was actually talking to Vivian about it, like knowing I was coming on the podcast. We were talking yesterday, and it's like this goes back to when I was like young too. Like even in high school, I don't know if you knew things, but we used to like.
I remember the Burger King hustle.
The Burger King, the Whopper Wednesdays, with them. That was one of our first quote unquote businesses.
What did you do with that?
We would get burgers from. I was one of the first ones to get like my N or my car. So, you know, not too many people were driving in school, and we just got our license, and we would go to Burger King, like get Whoppers on Wednesday, and we would bring a bunch back. Like a full, like we would have Evan in the car in the passenger seat, and we'd crank we wanted them to stay warm. So we'd crank the heater all the way up, and he'd just have like literally like
I didn't know you do that.
Dude, we wanted to keep it warm for everybody. That's right. Awesome. The best product. So he had like 30, 40 burgers all at once. And we had teachers that were all the teachers were giving us money too. Like, hey, get us one burger. So that was one. Like I was selling headphones at school for a little while. That might have been before your time. The skull candies. The skull candies. Way, really? Back when they were like, remember the skull candies?
Sick, dude. I love skull candies. Dude, they were so cool. I never had one. I never had one because I thought they were so cool, but it was like what, like $40 a pair or something like that?
I'm talking about the little bud ones. They're like 14 or 16 bucks. But they were pretty good back in the day. But anywho, I was always starting something like that, and even after high school, like before getting into the whole investing type thing, there was other things I tried that didn't work out. Like they failed. But
what else did you try?
I did a lot of things. Like tried a lot of different online websites, and you try the FBAs. Really? Yeah, like I had one little project. Did you ever know about the Trick Seats thing? No.
What's the Trick Seats thing?
Before I got into the investing, I had this idea. There was like a lot of kids that were like doing trick shots with frisbees and like basketball trick shots from half court and stuff.
Sure.
And there's a legitimate community around there. Like you won't
like
see
Dude
it.
Perfect.
Dude Perfect.
Yeah,
Dude Perfect. So that's exactly it. But think about that on like a lower scale with little kids like flinging, like they literally record themselves. This in particular frisbee where they were like super good at doing crazy stuff like over the house, but I had a whole website going. I had an Instagram page that was like 10K subs.
Really?
Literally, people were sending. Yeah. So this is all that. It didn't end up making any money, and it was a good learning experience. How like you can build something, but you need to be able to make money at the end of the day. Yeah. I had people. Basically, the idea was I was like kind of like a hub or platform where people could send me their trick shots, and I'd feature them. Yeah. Like we had over 10K subs. I don't know if it's still there or not, but
That's sick.
If I can dig it up, but. Yeah, like every day there were, and it was all these young kids. That was one of the failures. The audience was just like,
bunch of kids
just
tossing
frisbees around and doing like little soccer juggling things. It was like, but my goal was like if they could submit, for $2, you submit and you can win a prize or something like that. if you get all these people submitting, it was like, oh, maybe you can make some money there. Didn't pan out, but it was a learning experience, right? I think that's another thing. Like, if you want to get to a level of like success, you do fail so many times along the way. Every day you learn something every day, right? And you can either take it like a loser and just like get like crushed by it, or you take it as a learning experience. I learned so many things from that little experience about website design and reaching out to audience, and it's like you build and you grow from that every single day in anything in life, right?
Have you heard there's a quote about starting over, where if you fail and you need to start over, you're not starting from scratch. You're starting with experience.
True. There you go.
And that's something that I saw. I feel like I saw that a while back, like maybe a year ago or something. And then I saw it again the other day. And then now that I've started doing this, it's like, okay, there is some truth to that, right? Like even like looking at my first episode versus my current episodes, like there have been changes in the way that I like set up a shot or that I set up the sound and stuff like that. Like you're making all these little improvements because you're not starting each episode over from scratch. You're starting with experience, right?
And that's just the filming aspect. You're planning things too. You're getting guests on, and you gotta, like, you're from a business perspective, you're starting to realize like what goes into producing something.
Yeah, all this work. Yeah,
and like,
yeah,
let's say worst. I don't expect this, but let's say worst case scenario, this whole podcast goes to shit. Like it's like, oh, which it won't.
It won't. It'll
be good. It'll be 100%. Yeah. But even if that was a failure, like you said, you've learned so much that you don't even realize you're learning right now. Like you're learning the skills right now to what it takes to do, especially digital business, like something online these days. But I'm not saying that's what's going to happen. It's not going to happen. But you don't even really, you may not even, you realize it, but you may not realize how much you're actually learning and absorbing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
But I like hearing that from you, that you've tried things that haven't worked. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I think that's really interesting. Yeah. Because like I said earlier, all that we see is the success.
Yeah.
Right. You see like, okay, you started something. Exactly. You only see the surface level of your experience. Right. And so I think that's really cool for me to hear that you have tried things. I hate, this sounds rude as I say it. That's really cool that you failed.
It is, bro. It's
inspiring in a way because like you can do it. You can fail and you can still find success because you continue to try and you believe in something.
Yeah.
Right? You find something that you latch on to.
Again, getting back to what I said success was, it's as long as you're trying to get better at something, like the fact that you're doing this is like you're on the route to success right now because you're doing that. Like people are so scared of failing in anything, whatever it is, but you should seriously invite it in any case, right? It's like even in basketball, I take the same approach. Like, oh, this guy's way better than me, and I'm gonna get I'm not as good as him. Like some people would be like, oh, I don't want to play. Like I don't want to play. It's like, why not try to step up to the plate? And even if you get pumped, you are getting better as a person, as a basketball player. But it's that same approach that you should take in every day of life. It's like, I want to learn, I want to fail, I want to keep growing. It's so cliche, but seeing both sides of it, that's how you grow. It can be anything. Like talking to
cliches for a reason.
They are.
There's truth to them.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
And it's like, until you see the other side of that cliche, you often is like, whatever.
Yeah.
But when you're able to see both sides, it's like
when you're going through it yourself, that's when you start to be like, okay, I agree with that.
For sure.
Yeah. And this next question, this is just unrelated, but because you mentioned basketball, I have two things I want to ask about. One is those NTF things.
Yeah, NFTs.
I'm just curious, what even is that, NFTs?
Yeah.
But the other is, so like I said at the start of our conversation, I said that like the Brandon that I knew was the good at basketball, good looking guy in high school Brandon. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then now I see the all business Brandon. At any point in your time over that, maybe that 3-year period or even further back than that, did you ever think of pursuing basketball as something real?
Well, that's
because I used to hear that like you're like one of the best guys in BC. Like that's what I heard in high school.
Thanks, man. Well, no, I'll talk about that first. I was never one of the best in BC to begin with, but I definitely, there was a potential there that I wish I would have. Like that's one of my bigger regrets too. One of my biggest learning experiences in life so far was like, because I didn't commit to playing basketball. I learned from that, which sucked. Like it's something I regret. I was like, fuck, I wish I would have played college. I wish I would have done something because if I really committed myself, I'm sure I could have played college somewhere. NBA is a different story. No way. But to play college level, like, very, very realistic if I would have applied myself. And because I look back and I missed on that opportunity, I literally thought to myself when I started this investing thing, I'm like, I don't want to let this other opportunity go by. And that's from a failure, from a mistake that I make, that you learn from it, right? You when you reflect on that, you want to use those for the better good. So yeah, did I ever think about it? At the time, I was too young to. This was being stupid, man. Like, just when you're young, right? You just don't even think of things through.
Yeah,
you don't.
Yeah.
But and I never had anybody pushing me to say, "Oh, do this," or guide you the right way. But in hindsight, yeah, I would have loved to play better basketball and try more, and honestly, just push myself. Right? Back in the day, it's cool to just not try. Oh, I'm just gonna be talented and not go to practice. Like that's what it's like, which sucks. Because now knowing what I know, like when I see someone who's like overweight and they're in the gym trying to like get better, or you see someone in basketball who's maybe not as good, but they're like, they have no shame. They're like, I want to get better. That's what, like, that's 100% how we should be doing everything. Whether it's your business, your podcast, like don't feel ashamed or don't, like hold yourself back. Like just go get it. This sounds like
but that's so cool that you took that. Well, fuck
it's
Gary
true
V,
though,
man.
because
I like that you took that from even something like basketball.
Yeah.
Like you took this idea that you didn't give it your all at that point, and maybe what could have been, but now you took that and applied it to this. And
literally
so when you
to my
started
investing
this, you're
journey,
like, I'm fucking doing this. Like I'm giving it everything.
I literally applied it to the YouTube channel. I'm like, I might as well go for it, give it my all. That is 100% true. On the topic of NFTs.
Yes. Yeah.
Shit's crazy, man. I mean, I don't, it's, I don't know enough to talk about it, but from a base level, rather than buying a, card, like a traditional trading card, like a Pokemon card, you buy little digital moments of NBA players.
And it's a cool idea.
It's a cool idea for collectors. Like some people are like, I don't get it. I'll never get it. And that's fine because maybe you're not a basketball fan, but this is all run through the NBA. And if you could own...
it's actually run through the NBA. So that's why it's legit. That's why it's legit. Cool.
They can make, let's say, 1,000 copies of LeBron, fucking cram it on somebody. Yeah. And you can say, I own one of those copies or shares, like through I was gonna say cryptocurrency, but really through the blockchain. That's what an NFT is, a non-fungible token, I think. You can essentially tokenize things that you usually couldn't. That's
crazy.
You can buy art. I think a piece of art went for 69 million.
I saw 69 million video that I saw. Yeah.
Insane. Like that was just yesterday.
Unbelievable.
But yeah, you can tokenize things that typically wouldn't be able. Can't usually buy shares of like, non-tangible things.
Because I don't know. One thing that I saw was like, oh, why can't you just like screenshot it and then it's yours too?
That's the thing, right?
Yeah. But some of these things aren't even screenshotable, first of all.
True.
Right? And anyways.
That's what I don't get about it. It's like you own the rights to it, but obviously other people like Sports Center player, like obviously they can. It's just that I think people, the same way they put value on a little piece of cardboard, you could say, I own a little clip of this, right?
Sure.
So it's a cool thing for a lot of people.
Yeah. No,
I have a friend,
it's an
like
interesting thing.
My old basketball coach, like he's got I think over $700,000-$800,000 USD too in these cards or these digital moments, and that's like almost all growth. Like I don't want to say the exact numbers, but I think he put somewhere closer to like $25,000-$30,000 in.
That's insane.
Because it's a weird thing right now. This whole digital space.
Like you can say that about collectors in general.
True.
Like people collected baseball cards for years. You know what I mean? Like that's a thing.
It is.
And so I get that from a collection standpoint. For some reason, it seems like Pokemon's making a weird comeback right now too. Like a ton of people are collecting Pokemon cards.
So weird.
Which is
just buy stocks.
Interesting. Yeah, these are better cards, guys. Go check out Brandon Beavis Investing.
Buy some stocks,
dude, man. What I'm hearing in our conversation today is that you have a lot of humility in the way that you've approached your work. Not once have you said in your conversation today that like, oh yeah, like I'm really great at what I do. Not once have you said that. You've just said that you work hard.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm taking away from our conversation, or one of the things I'm going to take away from our conversation is that idea of work ethic. I know that you've watched The Last Dance.
Yeah.
I'm on my third rewatch right now because I find it so inspirational, dude.
Yeah,
it's insane. Awesome. But what I was saying just to the other guys, one, I think Michael Jordan is probably like the greatest athlete of all time. I think as far as how he was able to progress, because you mentioned just a moment ago something about like working hard. You're not necessarily the best person, the most talented one that shows up, but you're the one who puts in the most work. That's what Michael Jordan did. I didn't realize that.
You don't hear. I didn't know that before too. But I heard someone say like he didn't win for like the first 7 or 8 years of his career. He just got pumped and pumped and pumped, and it was that development that he went on as a person, as a basketball player, that's made him as great as he is. Right? He had to go through that.
It's insane, man.
You take that with anywhere in life, like again, with whatever you're doing.
Yeah. I think that from our conversation, just to sort of recap for everybody who's listening and watching.
Just whoever skipped to the end. And
want
to see the outro.
I want to just see the outro today. I think finding something that you're passionate about, first of all, that's maybe like an important first step. Find something that you believe in.
Very important, yeah.
And then be prepared to make sacrifices along the way to help push that goal and push that vision, because that's what's ultimately going to help you find success, I guess. And success can look different to everybody. Success will change probably as you progress throughout what you're doing. But yeah, I think latching on to something that you're passionate about is the thing that's important. And then you got to give it everything, as much as you can, and more as you're able to. I think that's the thing too, is it's like the way that I see kind of how I'm working on this is right now I've just started with it. I had my balance with my life before starting this, and now I've taken on this extra thing and I'm balancing the weight a little bit more, I'm starting to get used to it. Okay, now let me add on a little bit more of a workload, and then as I take this season break, let me figure out how much more workload I can take on and still manage it. That's kind of how I'm approaching this project, and maybe you've approached
that's how it works, in a similar
way.
That's
yeah, you just take on more and you get used to it, and you take on more and keep pushing.
That's how it goes, man.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on,
Brandon.
I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, dude. Hopefully sometime I'll have you back on again. But for now, I will say goodbye. Thank you for tuning in, everyone. Peace.